Hey team, this question is this video is on a question that was recently asked by Real Stradman on YouTube. He said, "Hey Nate, great channel and information. Many thanks. What's your take on the Norwegian singles approach that appears to be trending a lot and seems sensible to me?" Yeah, I mean, everybody trains differently. There are a lot of runners out there that like to do doubles, and then there are runners out there that like to do single training. The Norwegian running philosophy centers around, centers on precisely controlled threshold training. So, workouts, these are types of workouts that are designed to develop aerobic power without causing excess fatigue or acidosis. So, whereas double threshold training, that's kind of leading to 2 lactate controlled sessions per day. So you also have to remember that when you're doing 2 lactate controlled sessions per day versus doing just 1, that's going to add much more information. It's going to add a component of really, you may need more time to recover from doing 2 lactate controlled sessions per day versus the Norwegian singles training philosophy where you're compressing all this into one carefully structured threshold session per day. So it makes it much more practical for non-professional runners to be able to handle that. When you're doing lactate threshold training, that's roughly the fastest pace you can sustain for give or take about an hour. Okay, for a lot of other runners, that's around between 10K to half marathon pace. So your blood lactate on a physiological level is going to be around 2 to 3 millimoles as you're running. So if you're not really measuring lactate when you're running, you want to run by, as I talked about in the videos, you want to run by feel, controlled discomfort. Okay, so I think that if your focus is volume and you're trying to run much more kilometers, much more mileage during the week, then you do have to factor in double sessions. AM workout, track session, or tempo run on the roads, PM easy run, or depending on your expertise and experience level, you can start doing, the Norwegian double threshold, workout philosophy, where again you're doing 2 threshold sessions per day. But again, you really have to pay attention to. Again, I always harp on training smarter, not harder. Okay, I would much rather you get 1 quality session in per day versus trying to do this double threshold type training all the time. And if you're going to do that, first build that aerobic base of mileage first. Give yourself time to first adapt to the workouts you're throwing at yourself. As I mentioned in other videos, there's times where you're going to have a really hard time just doing a 3-mile lactate threshold run, and you're really going to be struggling when you're just not anaerobically fit yet. Okay, but as the late Dr. Joe Vigil in his book Road to the Top says, it takes about 28 days for the body to adapt. Okay, so I do think that there is a place for double threshold training. The Norwegians definitely have that down. I mean, especially the Ingebrigtsen brothers. I mean, for you to be asking this question, you definitely want to dig into those particular guys and what they're doing. But they do, especially Jakob. I mean, he's very heavy with double threshold training. But look at his expertise level. Look at how he's basically the best runner ever in several events. So, as a beginner, as a regional class runner, national class runner, and even up to elite level, you still have to be aware of, am I working harder or am I working smarter? Okay, and I think a lot of times, runners will do better. In this case, in your question regarding the Norwegian singles approach, doing 1 single workout is better than doing 2 workouts. Again, and for other runners, they're going to need, based off their expertise level, they may need to do some double threshold training to jump to the next level in their racing. But in most cases, for most runners, doing 1 single quality anaerobic threshold workout once per week instead of twice per week, you're gonna, again, you'll be able to spend more time near your threshold effort, but also with a tight control to avoid overreaching yourself. For example, instead of doing one brutal 8 times 1,000 workout, 1,000 meter workout at 5K pace, you might do 6 10-minute efforts at threshold pace, staying in control the whole time. Okay, so really the goal here is to train consistently, not maximally. Okay, so the Norwegian single approach should leave you ready to train well again the next day, and not to a point where you're really stressing yourself out. Okay, so there's a few examples of like Norwegian single threshold type workouts that I would definitely keep in mind. One is if you're doing like just classic threshold intervals, it might mean like a 15 to 20 minute easy jog warm up. Then you do like 5 times 6 minute at threshold pace, jog for 60 to 90 seconds for recovery between the intervals, and then a cool down of 10 to 15 minutes easy. Okay. Another example would be like a continuous tempo run where you're running, you jog 15 minutes easy for your warm up, then you run 30 to 40 minutes continuous at threshold effort. And then for your cool down, you do 10 to 15 minutes easy. Okay. Lastly, another example would be like a mixed session threshold type workout. Okay. Where you're doing maybe a warm up of like 20 minutes and you do 4 times 8 minutes at threshold effort. Then like you do after that, then you do 40 times or 4 times 30 seconds strides after you do that specific threshold workout. And I talk about strides all the time. Strides, at the time you may think that they're not really doing too much for you because they're so short. But I always tell runners, think about it this way. If you're doing, say, 4 to 5 100-meter strides 2 to 3 times per week, over a long period of time, over like a 6-month block of training, you will spend several miles, several kilometers at near sprint paces doing strides on top of everything else you're doing. Okay, so again, over time, as the body adapts and you get fitter, it's going to make your goal race pace to feel that much easier. Okay, so it's really, really important to keep in mind that the Norwegian singles training plan, training philosophy definitely will work. I think there is certainly a place for this, as you mentioned in your question, and you feel like it's more sensible to you. And I think if in most cases for the majority of runners, it's more of a sensible plan of action versus doing double threshold training. You can start doing those, but you have to be very, very anaerobically fit to be able to handle that, and make sure if you're going to do double threshold training, because it places so much demand on the body physiologically, also mentally, to be able to do 2 threshold workouts per day. Make sure you give yourself 2 to 3 days of easy jogging after you do that workout, and don't do double threshold workouts every single week. Okay, I would do it maybe like every other week. Okay, or if you're just starting to sprinkle, starting to get involved in this and start doing this type of training, maybe do it once per month on top, and then do your single threshold training each once per week, along with your VO2 max training, your long runs, doing those types of workouts, and gradually get to a point where you can start doing double threshold workouts. But again, if your schedule is tight, if you only have so much time in the day, get 1 quality session in per day. It's, again, much better to work smarter rather than harder. I'd much rather you work 50% less and get toward your goals than to work 100% harder and miss your goals by several minutes. You know what I mean? So I hope this answers your question, Real Stradman. I wish you all the best. And again, the Norwegian training, double threshold workout training philosophy, as well as singles workout strategy, both are extremely effective. Again, when you train at those intensities, you're building up a much higher level of lactic acid buildup versus just running easy. And again, you get used to and accustomed to being very uncomfortable running at very fast paces. And if you're patient enough and you allot that sufficient time for your body to adapt to what you're throwing at yourself, you're going to, that hard pace that you were really struggling with in the first week or two of your buildup is going to feel like a complete joke to you several weeks down the line as your body is adapted. You've built that endurance, you've built your stamina, you've built your speed, you've worked on a combination of all of these. You've trained at threshold effort, which is what we're talking about, running around 88 to 92% of max heart rate. That is quality running, but it feels extremely aggressive when you're not very anaerobically fit. So just be patient with this process. Know that it does take about 4 weeks, up to about 4 weeks for the body to adapt. Give yourself a longer buildup as well, okay? You can really prepare better 16 weeks, 20, 24 weeks. Those are the optimal, the best time frames, in my opinion, training for track races, half marathons, 10 miles, 5Ks, those types, versus giving yourself 8 weeks. You know, a 2-month buildup, yes, you can still get in great shape in that time frame, but still, if you're going to do an 8-week training plan, have a few weeks of easy aerobic mileage first before you start working into specific types of workouts, specific training, especially with anaerobic threshold workouts. Okay, in this case, Norwegian single anaerobic threshold workouts. So hope that answers your question. Check out the resources below or on RunDreamAchieve.com, and I'll talk to you guys and gals all in the next video.